start the project. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Vandana, please go ahead.
Sure, sir. Good evening, everyone. I, Dr. Vandana, to introduce Dr. Rakhi Thareja. We already know that Dr. Rakhi Thareja is an associate professor of Department of Chemistry, St. Stephen College. So we already know very well to ma'am. But today, last day of SDP program with collaboration with IIT Bombay. So she introduced her work for full of use of virtual tools, and we look to forward to gaining more insight into the virtual field and its application. So I welcoming to ma'am to please introduce to himself, and please take the platform, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Vandana. And I once again welcome all my dear students who actually are being very loyal in attending from the same speaker again, because you've already got a chance to listen to me for more than an hour just a few days back as a part of this workshop. Now, today, to begin with, I think many of you have already tried these virtual tools that you are made to get acquainted with during the course of this workshop. There were some virtual tools that I also did talk of. And I did introduce you to the fact that in order to actually be a virtual simulator or a person who is carrying out virtual simulations on computer, you need not know hardcore programming language. Because when you are creating or doing something virtually as a part of a virtual lab, you don't need to create the program that is able to simulate your real lab on the virtual screen. Right. So my first question to all of you today, be honest in answering, but think about it also, because I'm sure that having put your brains now, apart from your normal classes that you are attending, having put in your brains for these virtual simulators, I'm sure even if you did not get time to check out these virtual simulators, you would have at least, paid attention to these virtual simulators when they were talked of otherwise at some of the other point in time during the course of your graduation. So my question to all of you, the very first question, which I expect you to answer in the chat box, don't unmute yourself, lest we start talking about the disadvantages of the online lectures and online tools and online... See, somebody has already unmuted to answer. Please mute yourself. All right, thank you. So what I want you to answer is, what do you prefer, online mode or offline mode? But you have to give that answer with a reason. Do not jump on to just quickly give me the answers in the chat box. I can see around 75 participants, the number that is showing. Okay, so now my question to all the participants here is that you have to answer which mode do you actually prefer. It can be from your heart also. Give the reason also as to why do you prefer that mode. Okay, Simar Kaur is the first one, and I think I can clap for you because she's initiated the reaction. So what does she say? She likes offline mode because there is no interaction with teachers in personal with facial expression. Now see, when you talk of offline, Tarun, but I need a reason. Bhumika offline, absolutely okay. I empathize with the sentiments of all my dear students. Again, somebody says offline mode is better because we can't experience things in physical mode, which gives better knowledge. Okay, wonderful. Lakshita says online. I want reasons also. Now answers have started coming in. I am on Manan Sachdeva right now, but before actually I talk about these, one very good thing that Simran has pointed out is sometimes, it so happens when the teachers are giving lecture, they don't, put on the camera. Many of our teachers throughout India, the reason can be the data availability also. Because let me tell you, today also my Wi-Fi is working on inverter because there's no electricity as such. But then depending upon the data, if the network is really slow, then in that case, in order to make myself audible to different corners of the world, I may have to put off my camera. And the moment I take off my camera, the expressions that you otherwise see on your teacher's face are not visible. And that's really very hard. Then online mode mein expressions to dikh jayenge. You will be able to see the expressions of your teacher on the online mode. Agree. But you know, the reciprocal behavior that we want from our students is what the teachers are missing in return. Because if students also put on their cameras, so that thing can still be sorted, because you know our technology is increasing and advancing really rapidly. So the moment we get to see each other expressions, there will be some kind of an interaction. You make video calls, you talk to your friends as if they're just right there before you. So that thing can be taken care of. I need some stronger answers. All right, Manan Sachdeva says, I personally prefer to learn online first and then offline to get the better idea and then illustration. I really appreciate you, Manan, because this is a very smart answer. And this is what we actually created the online simulation tools for. We never wanted Corona to set in or these pandemics time to get started. The online simulators were basically created only for this purpose that you were actually trying to hint at. So at least you have got the message correct, that we want some kind of a blended form of the online plus the offline mode, so that when you come to the class, you have some clues as to what is to be done. Or say, supposedly, if you move out of your class clueless, you know that you have an option of checking the theory virtually again, even if your friends also have failed to understand. Because normally protocol kya hai, when your teacher explains a particular method in your class, once the method has been explained and you fumble in understanding, nahi samajh aaya ya dhyan bhatak gaya, there can be several reasons for that. Then in that case, what do you tend to do? You will call up a friend. Abhi virtually to yahi sab chal raha hai. You will call up your friend, yaar tujhe samajh mein aaya? If you did understand, तो मुझे भी बता दे करना क्या है. ठीक है, करना क्या है, या मुझे भेज दे कि तूने क्या करा है. So sometimes, you know, we just tend to follow a particular protocol. So what we want, the purpose is to actually make you understand your simulation tools, to exercise your brain muscles. In the last lecture, I was I was laying emphasis on this fact that you need to exercise your brain muscles so that, you know, you can come out with the best of the options, best of the innovations, and the best understanding for a particular experiment. So work it out on simulators. Go with the question. Charge your teacher. Fire your teacher with a lot of questions. Have that inquisitive mind, and let the teacher also grow along with you by answering those questions. Okay. And if at all, sometimes, you know, it so happens in this technologically advancing world, sometimes we also as teachers fumble to give answers. But then, you know, one thing is that this is the time when all of the fraternities are expected to move together. Okay, let's just move on to more answers, lest I just sit with this. Gaurav says offline mode as we can really work with the instruments. Very true. मैं आपको ड्रग बनाना सिखा दूंगी ऑनलाइन वर्चुअल टूल से, पर कैन वी एक्चुअली यूज दैट ड्रग टू क्योर अ डिजीज? अब स्क्रीन में से तो मैं पास कर भी नहीं सकती कि ये लो, ये ड्रग मैंने ऑनलाइन बनाया है, इसको ले लेना और सुबह और शाम और ठीक हो जाओगे. So just by looking at the drug, you will not get cured. It has to come down into reality. Okay, that is there for sure. Working with the instruments. लेकिन हम क्या चाहते हैं? हम चाहते हैं कि instruments के साथ हमारी efficiency भी बढ़ जाए. We want that efficiency to get increased drastically. And Akshit says, obviously offline. मुझे पता है your generation is truly bugged up by sitting at home. You want that offline experience, that college atmosphere where you can imbibe from your friends. I really appreciate that. Obviously offline, ma'am, because ma'am, it provides an interaction, and we are more comfortable with that. That's why I'm asking you to just interact with me online. ठीक है, because we couldn't meet offline in the offline mode. So at least let's try and look for methods by which we can come at the same platform as good as the real world. कोशिश तो हम कर सकते हैं. बाकी, the moment we are off these pandemic times, which we are hoping will get ended very soon. So the moment we are off these pandemic times, let me tell you, we will make the best use of these simulators that we are learning now for the best of our use to be taken to the real lab. वही हमने सब समझना है और वही सीखना है, इसीलिए इसको सीखना भी जरूरी है. And you must thank the current times. Otherwise, offline mode may sometimes, you get so busy with extracurricular activities, with this dramatic society, that society, practical work, maintaining of files, that sometimes you don't get time with the screen to be spent. क्योंकि जो बचा हुआ time होता है, they go with either the online games or with your social media, like, you have, some of you have YouTube channels, some of you have Instagram pages which are to be maintained, then reels making and all of that. सबको fascination तो है इन सब चीजों से. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't do all that, but that time should be maintained in a disciplined fashion. So all of that. So sometimes you don't even get time to learn extra things. So just think that this is the time when you are saving a lot of time in travel, in interaction and distractions from your friends, where you can learn the best and just keep it with you to be used at the correct time. ठीक है? Okay, Miradul says a suitable blend. Agree. Nothing can actually replace learning. We get one, we perform ourselves. अब मुझे लग रहा है मैंने presentation बनाया भी क्यों? I'm getting the best of the answers from you, all of you. Rahul says offline because in online there is focus, less focus, and then offline. I agree. If it is really cold, you don't even feel like getting out of the quilt to listen to the lecture properly. But it all depends from one person to another. What may be a disadvantage to one may be an advantage for the other. Okay, offline mode better. Feel aata hai. Feel aata hai. Because when you interact with your teacher, that feel does come, ki samajh aa raha hai. Or I absolutely agree, because sometimes, in the exam, I used to fumble with some concepts before the exam. I'm not that ancient. So when I used to give my exams, I used to feel, याद नहीं आ रहा, लेकिन अगर क्लास में वो कभी समझा होता है कहीं, तो किसी कॉर्नर में ना टीचर की आवाज सबकॉन्शियस माइंड में it gets embedded. So offline has a lot of advantages because, when you interact and have that physical kind of a touch or an experience in the real lab, that thing remains with us, because what you visualize and more than that, what you practice is what remains with you for a long, long time. Absolutely agree. Feel aata hai bhai. Ankush says, I would prefer online because in these pandemic times, online mode is far better than offline. Agree. अगर online हम ये सब developments नहीं करते, तो we wouldn't have been having this workshop also. So that blend is required. But offline and online, a suitable blend is what will be the conclusion of today's presentation also. Okay. Then thereafter, Vidhi says online mode for theory classes, because traveling can be a waste of time, but offline can be practicals. Now here I have a question. ठीक है, अभी मैं lecture ले रही हूँ online mode for theory classes. It's like a theory. I'm not making you do any practicals as of now. So when I'm making you give you an online lecture, ठीक है, मैं online lecture दे रही हूँ विधि, and I have around 50 students, 200 students, 2000 students, whatever is the limit of the software. मेरे पास उतने बच्चे एक साथ पढ़ रहे हैं. उसमें demerits क्या है कि कोई बच्चा सो रहा है तो मुझे पता ही नहीं चलेगा. Then sometimes, some students have better doubts, which even bring about that clarity that sometimes, you tend to fail in understanding that concept. But the moment there is a question and the answer to that, it remains in your mind for a longer time. तो आप अपने friends की expertise को भी lose कर जाते हो कई बार. Because आपके friends जो साथ में बैठे हैं, उनको question आया, they'll raise their hands. Teacher will immediately get distracted by that raised hand. She will say, yes, what is your doubt? Ab online mode mein, you do have the option of raising hands, but there is that reluctance also that I have felt. क्योंकि जितने मेरे पास offline mode में, because I am talking as a teacher from the other side, where you feel that the grass is greener. But for us, it's like giving an exam almost every day. अभी कोई बच्चा अचानक से unmute करके मुझसे question पूछेगा, तो it's like giving an exam only. So just think about it, that it's like giving an exam, but simultaneously I'm sharing from my experience that as we shifted from the offline to the online mode, the participation of the students was really, they were hesitant to ask questions very openly. Only 3 or 4 questions. अगर आज के session के बाद I get 87 questions or 87 or 85 questions out of the 87 participants there, which are there online, who are there online, I'm sorry, I would agree that the online mode is really, really successful, because at least you are not hesitant to answer or to ask your questions. I'm sorry. You are not hesitant for the interaction. So online mode successful for theory classes sirf tabhi hai when the interaction and understanding and exchange of your pieces of mind is really sharp and interactive. If it is not interactive, then neither does the teacher get that growth, because I also want to grow with age, with knowledge, and with the technology that is coming up. और कितनी सारी चीजें ऐसे होती हैं. Now Mridul has a question. Mridul, go ahead, shoot your question. No question, Mridul? I thought you raised your hand.
I don't have a question, but what you were saying, as a student, even I do agree that yes, in online we hesitate to ask
है ना?
question. Sorry, yes, ma'am.
Teachers have that
Right.
knack of getting through. तो पता चल जाता है. You know, I take the attendance, especially last year. We also are changing our techniques, you know, to understand the class in a better fashion in the online mode. Because जितना ये आपके लिए नया है, समझो उतना ही teachers के लिए भी है. It is not like teachers were born with that ability to understand everything in one go. We also are learning. That's why in the last lecture I told you about virtual simulators. Training is happening. Not only for students, if lakhs of students are getting trained, there are thousands of teachers who are also trained for the same. And there are many more who are yet to be trained, but through these online workshops. So we want the conduct of more and more such online workshops. All right, let's quickly go through others also. Vidhi has put her point. Princey says offline, as we can learn more by doing things physically. I've already talked about it. Aparna says offline mode because this helps us to not only interact with teachers, but also with our peers. Yes, exactly the point, Aparna. You must be nodding your head when I was talking. पर मैं देख नहीं पाई आपका head, है ना? I couldn't see your face particularly. And you know, that kind of a connect misses. Now, if some, you know, what happens, what does a teacher feel proud of? When I'm moving out in the market somewhere, say I'm moving out in CP, and suddenly one of the students come up to me, oh, ma'am, we attended your lecture, or we have studied from you. You know, the teacher, even if you're not complimenting, the teacher feels so proud. Oh, he remembers or she remembers. That's like an award for a teacher. So do pamper your teachers whenever you get an opportunity. But that online connect is not there. And when the teacher repeats your name, oh, acha, you are Rakhi Thareja from batch of 2006. There is that kind of, you know, a feel that the teacher also, the student also feels that the teacher-student relation was so strong that you could relate to one another. तो इसमें एक point और है, students को तो teachers के नाम फिर भी याद रह जाएंगे when you look at their faces and get familiarized otherwise, we are also feeling the disadvantage that we don't get to know each one of you personally. Like now, Mridul asked a question. I will remember Mridul at least for a long time now. But the point is that I haven't interacted by having that face to face. He did not put on his camera. And neither did I want to push it upon him, right? So it is like that. So Arihant says, ma'am, offline, without doing something with my own hands and knowing the actual things going on. And the conditions that we do our experiments doesn't satisfy us. अच्छा ये अगर offline mode में lecture होता, तो I would have made you answer this personally yourself. Now I am reading it out for everyone. नहीं तो chaos हो जाएगा, entropy factor will increase. Akshit says offline because everyone can't afford those tools which we have to use. Yes. So we are getting to know about the advantages and disadvantages that I'm yet to talk about. See, it's like, you know, I am studying it. Last time you remember when I was talking, there was a plain background. I remember I was sitting in another room. Today I've got another special corner so that I don't get disturbed. If for me, it was like a little bit of a task to arrange that personal corner for myself, it's not possible for everybody. And sometimes, you know, it's like my kids, when they answer in their online mode to their teachers, it's like there is some background noise of the family member and they do get irritated. Oh, we felt insulted and this and that. So ये सब problems हैं. So offline में, you know, you can't afford for the tools also. अच्छा, there are some students who are sitting in remote corners of the country. उनके पास तो access ही नहीं है. So, you know, one of my students, my heart goes out when I say that. One of my students, he used to attend the classes by sitting on the tank on his terrace in his village. Why was he sitting on the tank of the terrace in his village? Because वहाँ पे network connectivity best था. ताकि teacher की voice breaks में ना आए. Breaks में आएगा तो फिर समझ क्या आएगा? It will be like, ooh, and it'll be very difficult. Anyways, Vaishali says again, offline mode. So majority are in the offline mode. Agar ye offline chal raha hota aur corona nahi hota na, this question would have carried a lot more weight. I'll tell you anyways what the other universities feel about it. Offline mode is better because we could be more interactive with our classmates and teachers and whatnot, and communication and conversation would be better. Aparna says different opinions of different people. Yes, we've been talking about that. Disha Sardar says both offline, online. Smart answer. Manan says, Manan has thanked me. Simmer says a sense of touch, a sense of interaction, a sense of era. In person hits more. But let me tell you, a sense of that metaphor that you've used here has come only in the online mode. Shayad offline mein nahi bolte, but very nice, very nicely put. Akshay says, Akshay 158, online mode, any mistake can be corrected easily. Yes, very good point. Online mode mein na hamare paas hai that option of doing it again and again and again, and there would be nobody to stop. Otherwise, you tend to get to see sometimes, weird faces of sometimes teachers, who like, you've already wasted so much of chemicals. Why do you want to do the experiment again? You failed once, twice, thrice, but wo restrictions to rehte. Okay, no need of lab and chemicals, which, yeah, of course, this is what we talked of in the last lecture. And of course, it gives us better chances of improvement. Narendra says offline mode because other things is also important except study, like skill development. Yes. All right. Then Ritvik says, dono karwa do, bhai jaan chodo, online, offline, dono hone chahiye. All right. Shreya says, in online mode, we are like robots. We do study, we score good marks. Our score good marks, there it is again a debate. How you score good marks, whether it is an honest one or it is like, copied one, or आजकल तो open book exam का concept है. तो open book means friend की भी book हो, वो भी open book है. Google बाबा जो दिखाएंगे वो भी open book है. अगर आप कहीं और से देख रहे हो वो भी open book है. So what is now, understand, इससे क्या पता चलता है that examination and your marks do not carry as much weightage as much as your understanding of the concepts to carry. Okay. Then Mritul says in offline, we're able to ask doubts. Did I miss out anything from Shreya's this thing? In online mode, we are like robots and we do study and score good marks. While in offline mode, explore ourselves in different fields like dance, different people from different states, which enhance our knowledge regarding different culture. Acha, ye sab online bhi aajkal possible hai because you can interact with people in different corners of the world altogether. वो ऑनलाइन इंटरैक्शन होना चाहिए, नेट कनेक्टिविटी स्ट्रॉन्ग होना चाहिए. यू कैन इंटरैक्ट विद एनीबडी, यू कैन डांस ऑनलाइन, यू कैन लर्न ऑनलाइन, यू कैन लर्न फ्रॉम यूट्यूब एंड अदर एजुकेशनल रिसोर्सेज. सो बट यस, that intermingling, meeting, developing socially, that social interaction, the ideal one. You may have thousands of friends on YouTube, you get to read some status messages or messages otherwise. You may be having thousands of friends, but a real true one is the one that one looks for. Aisa koi ek message bhi maine, I just came across that. So what it means is that social interaction is really important to feel that, get that connect. That's very true. In offline, Britul is coming again, and we were also able to ask doubts just outside the room. Yes, kahin pe bhi teacher mile pakad lo. Abhi bhi 24/7. Let me tell you, majority of the educational teachers and mentors are available 24/7. अब तो और ज़्यादा ये है कि students do call up at 6, at 7 to ask their doubts. So that availability for the teachers is there. The only thing that you have to overcome is that fear factor and that hesitation. You should actually be able to bar your soul and open to be able to interact with your teachers. Okay, and then many of you have still not answered, but it's okay. Had you answered, then it would have been even more difficult for me. So what will we actually do now? We are here to compare the offline and online mode, but simultaneously we have to understand the purpose of this workshop also. Here you've learned the different virtual simulators. In the last class, I did introduce you to a few virtual simulators. Online, let's just talk about that. Now I get some more answers. Most of the offline things can be replaced by online if and only if everybody has good connectivity of internet and availability of resources. मैं कह रही हूँ सब कुछ चलो प्रोवाइड कर दो. Assume 100% perfection in the internet. Assume 100% face viewing. Okay, but still, how can your friend trouble you from understanding? How will you learn to learn in distractions? Right now, you have distraction from your family members. वो तो वैसे भी रहता है. So how do you get to experience a different world altogether? Many questions. Okay, and I'm getting some more answers, but अभी भी बहुत बच्चों ने आंसर नहीं किया है, but कोई बात नहीं. यही ट्रैक नहीं कर सकते. क्लास में क्या है, ऑफलाइन एक जगह से शुरू करोगे, यू कैन जस्ट गो ऑन. हियर यू कैन गो अहेड विद रोल नंबर वाइज, बट टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट बहुत ज्यादा होता है. Many things you can just carry on with the discussions further in class. Here there are a number of limitations. Anyways, so our basic purpose, online chalo, offline chalo, our basic aim is to enhance our knowledge. We want that chemistry knowledge to come in and pour in from everywhere. You know that life is all about chemistry. So you have to have that chemistry knowledge pouring in from all corners. Right, that is our main aim. Online करो, offline करो, हमारे concepts और understanding बिल्कुल clear होनी चाहिए, ताकि pillars strong हो. Okay, so you have, we'll talk by in quick introduction that you already know. I'm sorry. Today's lecture is focusing on the comparison of virtual and real labs, but we'll look into the virtual labs again because I do not have the option of exposing you to the real labs in the real time. Okay. Next, here, if I talk about, by its very design, a virtual lab can be identical to an authentic wet lab. However, by weighing the many benefits of a virtual lab against the traditional wet lab, an argument can be made. And that argument is that virtual labs are equivalent in value to the learner. Because जिसने समझना है वो समझ जाएगा. But the point is that you should not enter your lab, whether it is a wet lab or whether it is an online lab. You should never enter the lab without the theory and the basics getting all right. So you should have that understanding before you enter, because they address different learning styles and offer a more flexible and open-ended environment for inquiry. We've already looked into these benefits and you already are aware of them. क्योंकि कितने सारे तो मेरे पास answers, I got them in the chat box. They can be conducted anytime, anywhere. No time is needed for equipment setup and wait time results. Lesson safety issues, because even if you spill over the chemical or in the online mode, तो वो screen से बाहर निकल के तो आ नहीं जाएगा. So that danger of handling hazardous chemicals is not there. But simultaneously, वो expertise भी तो नहीं आएगा. See, practically, if I have to practice home science, if I have to make chapatis in kitchen, I can learn that they should be round, they should be proper, they should look beautiful, they should look presentable, they have to be kept for this much of time on the, on the flame. But the point is that unless you practice in real, how do you learn about it? So, there are safety issues without the use of dangerous chemicals, of course. Lower chemicals, but it just introduces you to a particular experiment really well. So lower cost, no lab equipments are required. Every student can actively participate. If I get an opportunity to make you, if I have only one spectrophotometer, I can make only some students work in a day's time who can effectively work and handle that particular instrument. But the point is that if I actually have to introduce it to everybody, ठीक है, आपने इंस्ट्रूमेंट देखा ऑफलाइन मोड में, these are the buttons, but in order to clearly introduce, sometimes we ask our students, table के पास आ जाओ, everybody come near the bench and look how the teacher is demonstrating. Now उसमें क्या होता है, I'm like short-heighted, so sometimes it so happens that the short-heighted students who cannot see anything just then give up and just stand like that कि चलो ठीक है, किसी से पूछ लेंगे. But online का फायदा क्या है? Online will show it to you as to how things are getting done, and then you can just handle your instrument accordingly. Now, every student gets that active participation. Okay, so multiple scenarios can be presented for students. Multiple scenarios. Now, I mean, जब सबके सब एक साथ उस चीज को देखते हैं, the way they perceive is different for everybody. So one can understand it accordingly and have the questions also accordingly. Like somebody has just put in a question, ma'am, what if we learn mostly from online and practicals too? Robots will perform the practicals. अभी आते हैं उस पॉइंट पे, रोबोट से करवाना है या हमने खुद करना है, ये भी डिसाइड कर लेते हैं. ठीक है, स्टूडेंट्स कैन रिपीट द एक्सपेरिमेंट मल्टीपल टाइम्स. Students receive prompt and personalized feedback. Let's have a debate once I'm through with the presentation. Personalization है इसमें. When you talk about online labs, you have the boundaries and goals already set, that these are to be achieved. You have the aim of the experiment already there with you. Now you know that aim is to be achieved. Sometimes you work in pairs because of paucity of instruments in the offline mode, but it limits the range of exploration to something which is manageable and more challenging, but allows for the inquiry, exploration, and discovery. Kyunki here in the online mode, when you're working with the virtual simulators, you can answer your questions also simultaneously by looking up literature. Literature matlab the authentic sources. There are some scientific articles which are published in journals of repute. So you can go through, once you publish your article, or you have an article which is already published, you can look into those research articles to find out or get answers to the questions that come to your mind, and just check up कि जो question एक आपके दिमाग में आया while doing a particular experiment, whether that question is getting answered from that research publication or not. If it is not getting answered, you start looking for the answer then. Manan is actually agreeing with me by saying now the interaction has got set on. He says that yes, ma'am, in the offline mode, due to lack of instruments, we do sometimes some experiments in groups. फिर उसमें ना वो level of understanding नहीं होती. So online में at least everybody gets their own workspace. So you can work, and later that now you know the experiment, so you can convince your teachers, your instructors, that just give us this much of time with the instrument and we will work and get our work done immediately. We'll get over with the aim of the experiment, right? So now cookbooking. Ye cookbooks kya hai? Cookbooks I am not just talking about these cookbooks in your during the pandemic times, but these cookbooks are something which are already given to you in the offline mode. Cookbooks kya hoti hai? Cookbooks hoti hai jisme you have the entire protocol. Nowadays you have even videos available for cookbooks. So I'm not taking you to the kitchen exactly, but I'm just telling you that even when you have to synthesize something in the organic chemistry lab, you have a set of instructions. Say supposedly you are creating the crystallized sample of a particular organic compound A. So you will have a protocol. You will have a technique to check the crystallization point. You dip in the glass rod and whatever. So there are ways and means to look into it. You follow that protocol. Even if you go wrong anywhere, there is again additional protocol which is given, so that you get the correct yield. Now, what is the fascination? आपने एक procedure follow करा, आपको एक चीज मिल गई. That is as good as just following a set of protocols online. अभी किसी ने वो robots का जिक्र करा था. Somebody was talking about robots. What are robots doing? Don't be the robots in your life. Your teacher gives you a set of instructions. You will either copy it without even putting in your mind कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं. Submit करना है, deadline है, GCL में वो missing आ जाएगा या late हो जाएगा, done late हो जाएगा. So there are many sincere students who give it on time. Some students feel क्या फर्क पड़ता है, copy करेंगे दे देंगे, without understanding. Now rise beyond that. You have to not to follow a cookbook. When you go into the lab, there are so many students, a significant fraction of students who go through the protocol which is to be followed. That means the procedure which is given to you. When the procedure is given to you, that means you are being spoon fed like a 6 months old toddler. ठीक है, आपको procedure मिला, you just went through the procedure and you are going to the offline lab even without putting in your mind as to what is to be done. You get the yield, you see friend की yield, वो friend के product जो उन्होंने organic compound बनाया, उसका yield is much better than yours. You get fascinated. या crystal shape ज़्यादा better है. And ma'am says, look into this child's crystals. You get fascinated. You will ask for one crystal or two also. Let me add it to my sample packet. होता है ना, you get that temptation when you actually. But then what's the point of just, displaying or showing off your talent, which you even are getting without understanding. If you have missed upon, if you did not get as good as shape of the crystals as you were expecting, try to find out the reasons as to why you are not getting the same. In the online mode, it's quite a bit of difficulty to get that real experience. But there is more danger of the cookbooks getting followed, not only in the offline but also in the online mode, which you have to refrain from. I'll talk about that very shortly. There are factors which are actually driving the cookbooking. We as teachers also tend to give you the procedures, because when the strength is too large, it is very difficult to gain and interact with each and every student. Like if we have presently around 92 participants, it will be very difficult for me to interact with each one of you to get the gist of whether you've understood or not. So we also drive and make our own techniques. So cookbook is like cookbook de do, let the child follow that protocol and let the child get the product. DU course curriculum satisfies that. Course curriculum, will give you the cookbook, that means the procedure. You will follow the procedure, and then you will write down your results, whatever you obtain. So that cookbook technique is all right, but it is safe only till the point where you implement it with an understanding. Agar understanding nahi hai, to sab bekar hai. This is what the crux of the entire, I think, any lecture that any of your teacher also gives, even for any topic specifically related to chemistry. Now, what is the scope of virtual laboratories? With virtual lab, students don't have to worry about messing up and wasting time already put by somebody else. Now, these are some of the researches which have been done with some universities. In Northwestern University, they found that computer-aided simulation, I hope word to yaad hoga sabko. We talked of simulation in the last class. Simulation is like changing or trying to imitate the behavior of the real-time environment. So when you are doing computer simulations and getting results therein, those results, if they are comparable to your real-time environment, are considered to be a successful outcome of the experiment. So there were students who used computer-aided simulation for a particular experiment. Cookbook to milta hai. So you follow the procedure, and there will be a different procedure. There will be a procedure which will be imitation of the real lab. So you follow that procedure online with a click of a button. And there are other students who worked with traditional hands. So let me tell you that the results showed no difference at all. So one thing we understand, that if we are trying to give you the virtual lab atmosphere or experience, at least we are not going down in the results. Because say if we are studying the molar conductivity of a strong electrolyte and a weak electrolyte, you know that for a strong electrolyte, there is like a straight line curve for KCl when we talk about the molar conductivity, agar yaad hai from your 12th standard itself. And when you talk about a weak electrolyte, there is like a very sharp decline in the curve, right? With increase in concentration. With increase in concentration, what happens? The molar conductivity drops in a sharp fashion. It's a very fast decline. So there, if the results are proper and correct, it is only then that there is some kind of a purpose of doing virtual simulations. Because agar result hi galat ho gaya, to pura concept idhar ka udhar ho jayega. So the very first point that we must actually check up is that whether these results are authentic and useful or not. Because if they are in concordance with the theory, is what we are going to check. Ye nahi hai virtual simulator agar mil gaya hai and somebody has created it, it is always going to be correct. Maybe if there is an error in the formula of chemistry in the program, then the results will not be according to what you are expecting them to be. What you are expected to do as chemists or as science students is that you will understand the concept, have a clarity of the concept, and then look at whatever you are getting, whether it is through online simulations or through the offline mode. You have to check whether the results that you are obtaining are in concordance with your basic concepts or not. Challenge them. Sahi hai, give a reason. Galat hai, you have to give a reason for that. That there may be something wrong in the coding. And if it is going wrong in the offline practicals, then again you have to give a reason that there may be some manual errors, that you did not take the precautions properly. There were fluctuations in your say colorimeter or say conductometer or whatever you are working with, you have to give the reasons for the errors. So if you are getting an error, it is not like ye to bekar hai, it doesn't give you the correct results. No, you have to look for the correct reasons for the errors that you are coming across, and then try to cite them. So what it was found was like that the virtual simulators were working in a fine fashion. You know, ek jagah se green signal milta hai, then others also start following it up. So similarly, in an inorganic chemistry department of one of the foreign universities, it was found that the programs that were introduced in simulations, क्योंकि ये simulations सारे program based हैं. Now you are not expected to create those programs. All you need to do is just understand the procedure, and then implement it online to get the results. So you have the analysis of the data determined for that particular experiment, that the students who used inorganic simulations believed that the program increases their ability to apply principles and understanding. तो अगर ऐसा research outcome होगा, because हर चीज का एक research होता है, this is also a research outcome, that it was researched upon several students, that what was the outcome of the results that they did. So they found that when they do it in the online mode, that means while working on the screen, their brain works better. Because abhi to see, everybody wants offline because you are just not getting the taste of the offline at all. But if you would have had been in the offline mode, you would have been able to appreciate it better कि आपको वो personal space अलग से मिल रहा है. अभी तो बहुत ज़्यादा personal space मिल गया है. So everybody wants to come in the offline mode, go to the college, enjoy the campus learning and all of that. So presently everybody wants that. But the point is that you need to appreciate the fact that ये वाली जो ability आपको मिल रही है to get some kind of an experience कि कैसे करते हैं is something which is truly remarkable, all right? And your mind, of course, should work better. Now, do not restrict yourself here, thinking that we are made to use these virtual simulators or because there is no other option. I agree. Right now, during the pandemic times, because of the restrictions from the government, we aren't able to open the educational institutions for you. But don't make it become a restriction, because it is never a restriction. Virtual simulators are created for your use so that your brain functions better than the normal offline mode. Offline ka mauka jab milega. But don't be a cribber. Start enjoying what you're doing. Okay. Then only the purpose of creating virtual simulators gets solved. Then research supporting virtual labs from University of Texas is that one of the biologists said that the students don't have to worry about running through expensive bacterial cultures. Kyunki kai baar na, let me tell you, for experiments also, like we do determination of molar mass of a polymer using molar mass of a polymer like polyvinyl pyrrolidone using viscosity measurements. I don't know how many of you have already done that. So when we do that, polyvinyl pyrrolidone is such an expensive chemical that when we have to give it to 50 students, we also think about it at least twice as to how can we minimize the use of that chemical. So cost factor is a big factor that serves our purpose. So what we can do is we can make you do it in groups and give you the online experience also simultaneously. So the smart students who actually did it online for polyvinyl acrylate, all right, wonderful. So I mean, you get to do all of that, not practically in lab, I understand. Ab isi mein, let me just talk about offline. Jab hum ye experiment kar rahe the, and we were actually discussing, one of the students overheard the communication that the teachers were having. So that student came up to me telling me that, ma'am, starch is also in the polymeric form, so we can always study and find out the molar mass of starch also. So then I was like, even for starch we might have to order. The child suggested, why can't we take potato starch? I felt, yes, why not? We can always create the potato starch. So we actually did a lot of mixing and tried to get a stable form of the potato starch. And then we did the same experiment using the potato starch. So I'm just telling you, there are several innovations that come up when you take it up, whether in the offline mode and online mode. The point is that you should understand and then move on to the virtual simulators as well as the offline tools thereafter. Okay, so another research from University of North Carolina I am bringing them to you because, this is how it developed, and this is how we thought of developing them over a period of time. And you are getting to use it straight away right now. These weren't created within a span of some few months. The wheels had started rolling, I think, many, many years ago. So the students do chemistry projects at home, and they found that they report back results to the instructors very comfortably through the internet. So, when I get to check the results in the online mode, one thing is you keep a track immediately of the students who've submitted it. And then you get the flexibility of correcting them also from wherever. Good thing for teachers as well. They're learning at least as much as they would have on the online on campus chemistry lab, right? So at least for the students who sometimes do not even get the option of facing the lab. There are so many students who are deprived of even joining any of the elite universities like Delhi University or any other university that you think of. So at least they will have that, they can quench their thirst of learning through these online tools. 75% of the students actually do find simulations really fascinating. That's okay. I understand your love for offline mode right now, and everybody does. So it allowed them the freedom to explore, because you can just explore. So take it as a positive point right now, because, make the best use of the resources that are there before you. And right now, IIT has given you that platform. KMC, through this workshop, has given you that platform to understand all of those virtual simulator tools so that you make the best use of it. Another student actually said that it is interesting to try a bunch of experiments while they're all fresh in your mind, and then analyze them. Now, if we keep giving you just lectures on the practicals without making you implement or try them out somewhere, what will happen? They will just get fed at one corner of your mind without a longer time retention, which we do not want to happen. So students did get to learn a lot, and I'm sure you also would have your experiences of learning through the virtual online simulators. Students like the fact that virtual reactions were really quick. Sometimes, you have to set up your apparatus and then you have to wait for the results in the experimental mode. In the online mode, there is a set specific time that you expect, depending upon your RAM and ROM of the system also. So you get the results pretty efficiently and quickly. Okay. These days, even molecular modeling has been introduced to visualize the chemical molecules that you cannot see otherwise. The chemicals which are not visible through the naked eye can be visualized very comfortably, even on your smartphone apps. Last year, I remember even it was KMC only who had conducted an online workshop to introduce all the students to the virtual apps, so that you don't get distracted by the virtual otherwise distractions like you have on the net that I keep talking of, social media, etc. But then to get you streamlined into a more knowledgeable pathway. Students liked the fact that the virtual reactions were quick and could be managed comfortably. Many students also reported that simulations increased their understanding of the subject matter. This has already been talked about. Learning modalities expressed. I'll share this presentation also with your teachers so that you can have a look at them. We've already talked of the summary of the benefits of virtual labs, which many of you have already mentioned. So that's why I was just thinking that it permits the reflective self-training. Then it's a viable option for the real world experience. It addresses the problems of the overcrowded classes, just as I said, whether it is 50 or 500 or 1000, I have to put in the same labor to make you understand. So it provides a realistic learning environment and teaches the cognitive processes while providing you with the procedure and the real-time experience. So, that cookbook technique is something that we need to avoid. It can be avoided in virtual labs for sure. And, no student is left waiting for the teacher's instructions. Everybody gets the instructions together. So it's not like batches mein aa jao if there is less space around the bench. Here, everybody gets the instructions together. So the boundaries we are going and extending beyond the boundaries of what actually can be done. There's a lot of writing here. So it's not just about the virtual lab thinking, but strengthening our resources. So agar abhi resources available hai, Don't think that these resources are available because beggars are not the choosers. You don't have an option right now, agree. But then make the best use of the resources that you have, so that when you are made to go to the real life situation, you're absolutely okay with it. So, this is what it talks about. And let me just quickly summarize. Okay, when we talk about virtual labs, they are convenient, they give you the time freedom, they are comparatively cheaper, they are time saving. You get to see the recorded lectures. This lecture is also getting recorded. So you get to go through the recorded lectures again and again and again. But what are the disadvantages? Unse dur rehna hai. And you should know how to overcome those disadvantages. There is a disadvantage of isolation because you're not in social networking with your friends as much as you would have had otherwise. I told you virtual friends are different from the real friends. Okay. That's again another lecture that we can talk on. No sense of competition is there. When you're working, you're just your own master. So that you should not think of yourself as the most brainy person, because there are several brilliant brains sitting outside from whom you need to imbibe things. False health impacts, because if you keep sitting at one place with your system throughout, so you need to keep exercising and stay fit. There is an ease of cheating. अब इसमें तो मुझे कुछ समझाने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. When I have to talk about the ease of cheating, I think majority of you, even I am 100% sure that out of the 92 participants who are there right now, I am 100% sure that even if you do not practice it, you do not practice it. I am 100% sure of that. But you know how it can be done, or whether your friends are doing it or not, whether that conferencing is happening or not. So there is that ease, where you can just fool around and give the world a fake impression that you have scored 95% in your course when it is all empty here. Don't do that. Okay. Then there is lack of resources, of course, because as somebody just talked about that, the net availability and the data availability should be there throughout the country, at least for us. And then, distractions when it comes to your family. It is not easy environment for everybody. Sometimes it so happens when even I am taking a lecture, I do get distracted by my family members or by the doorbell or by something else. So that environment, of course, is missing. But when we talk about the real labs, we have talked about now both almost simultaneously. I laid more emphasis on virtual because we have to understand that this is our strongest pillar right now. So why not adhere to it? Real labs give you that environment, that chill out zone where you can actually have that flexibility of looking at other faces, learning from their expressions, interaction, the way they ask questions. You also gather, अगर 4 बच्चों ने हाथ उठाया होता है ना, 4 extra ऐसे ही उठ जाते हैं. Because they are asking questions, let's also think about something. What can I put to ma'am so that I get to interact with ma'am? होता है ना ऐसे. So you get interested in that. There is that competitive atmosphere. Usne pucha hai, I will also ask. If he has answered that question, I knew the answer better than what ma'am has answered. So let me just put my points forward. Bahut advantages hote. I am also missing the offline mode a lot, but let's make the best use of it. I'm still happy talking to you all. Innovative activities can be performed. You can think about different things like you can in the offline mode as well, online mode as well. It works without equipments. Even without equipments, when you talk about, say, in the real labs also, it is not always the instruments that keep working. So you just do not have to talk about the instrumentation part of it. So even without equipments, you have to work with chemicals in the chemical lab. So you get that experience of working with chemicals even without equipments. So online simulators, jitne bhi hai, you will find that the most successful are the ones which are working with on the basis of some kind of an equipment, like the simulator of a spectrometer, simulator of a conductometer, simulator of a pH meter, of something else. You can just think about colorimeter. So I mean, that ways it is not always which is based upon equipments. There is chemistry which is much beyond that. In fact, the chemistry basic starts from mixing of the chemicals only. And there is effective evaluation, because what you are getting in real is real. If I am creating a powder of a particular drug, I can get to taste that. Don't do that. I can get to taste that only in the real world. If I create and synthesize a particular molecule on the screen, I will not get to taste that or to put it to implementation, but it will, give me an easy pathway as to how to go about doing it in the real world. ठीक है. फिर रियल लैब्स में कई बार वेस्टेज ऑफ टाइम है because a lot of time goes into travel. I've seen, and my heart goes out when I say that some students come from Sonipat, some come from Ballabgarh, some come from even far off distances like Meerut and places like that, and then some stay in PG, some stay in the res, and the res I mean the hostel. The hostel is the farthest of all, because when you have to cover that distance of the hostel and the classroom, it tends to be even further than your Sonipat or Ballabgarh commutation. Those are the students who are the ones who at times, lag behind. So there are disadvantages also. There's a lot of wastage time. You'll get up, you'll get ready, you have to be absolutely prim and proper is the advantage. But it all depends on how you look at it. So there's a lot of travel
It's 5 o'clock
that you get to save. No recorded lectures. Teacher, there are some teachers sometimes, एक concept समझाया, बच्चे ने हाथ उठाया, so the teachers actually say, sorry, I will not repeat it again. I told you to be attentive in the class. So sometimes there is no scope of, having that recording again. And you're not allowed to use your phones in the class. So you cannot have the scope of a recorded lecture at all. So you have to be absolutely attentive. Plus B and minus B. So comparatively expensive also, because chemicals ka use hai. Scheduling of the extra classes, say supposedly if you want to book an extra class, it is a lot more dependent on the infrastructure. That means room availability, the chemical availability, the teacher availability, then the lab staff availability. You have to look into a number of things. And then of course in the real labs, you have distractions of the friends around. So that is of course there. So let me just talk about these exciting transitions that we are talking about. What seems to be an advantage to me may seem as a disadvantage to you, and what seems to be as a disadvantage to me may be an advantage. You can look into the better points as I could interact and check it out. All right, one might prefer a type of learning rather than the other according to the needs. लेकिन हम ये भी नहीं चाहते that when we perform an experiment in the offline mode, there is a lot of wastage of resources. If you have to be better prepared, you will have to use these virtual simulators at some point or the other. So now a quick question, and let me see how many of you answer to all of you. Now, what do you think? Online, offline, or both? Offline shuru ho gaya. Samjho, Corona is all over. We are going to meet offline from tomorrow. So offline shuru ho gaya. So I get both. Yes, wonderful. Still somebody says, Chetan says on offline. That means. So Ritvik ne to starting mein hi bol diya tha. Both, ma'am. Very nice. Very nice. So Mritul says offline. Of course, I understand. Abhi to inclination pura offline ki taraf hai. Had it been offline, this lecture would have been far more exciting also, I tell you. Okay. So let's just conclude. Okay, we want a blended mix of the two. Many of you did answer that question. All right. And what we need is like the collaboration of the two mix. As per the convenience of the prevailing situation, very smart answer, Aparna. Because abhi to offline mode, we haven't started with the offline mode at all. So as per convenience, our convenience, abhi you have to make it convenient to learn as to how to employ things, in the online fashion. Even if you have to check how a particular experiment is to be done in the offline mode, you have YouTube tutorials available. Sometimes your teachers also show you some videos. You must have experienced that. Your teachers show you the video tutorials of how it is to be performed in the lab. There a researcher or a lab technician is actually, like for example, determination of surface tension, if we talk about, I did talk of it. So if it all, the lab technician is like putting it in the proper place, you look at it, you understand, but you can't look at it from different angles for overall understanding. So depending upon, the convenience right now and the availability right now and the restrictions right now, we have to adhere in the best possible manner. Kyuki focus should be on understanding. I repeat it again. Marks will automatically follow. Don't run after marks, because we've already seen the pros and cons. One of the cons is like you can get to cheat very easily. It's an open book exam. Nahi bhi samajh aayega, somebody will tell you the answer to this question is given on this page number of this book. You'll open that page, you'll copy it, or else you'll ask, yaar photo hi bhej de na, why should I open the book also? Mujhe lani padegi, wo cupboard mein hai, ya this and that. So it's very easy to do that in the present online game. But if you do not understand, in the long term, you will be a loser. तो अंडरस्टैंड नहीं करोगे कॉन्सेप्ट्स, आप भी से जाग जाओ. Get up from this workshop itself to make the best use of the resources that are available. Use virtual tools and keep, doing it. So we need a collaboration of both the modes, honestly. I also am missing offline as much as you all are doing. But then we need to do that. Thank you for your kind attention, because, my thank you doesn't mean that the lecture has got over. I did introduce you to some virtual simulators in the last class. Let me just quickly talk about one more, since I'm getting an opportunity to interact with you today with the closure ceremony to follow after this. Here you have, see, the voltmeter right here, wherein you can actually alter the temperature on the right. I'm so sorry, did I alter? Just a sec. Okay, so here you get to alter the temperature. I told you all physical parameters are dependent on temperature. So you get to select your electrodes also. Now think about the different experiments that you can. मैं कोई experiment बता ही नहीं रही हूँ. DU का course curriculum भूल जाओ whether it is there in your course or not. You have a voltmeter where you can study the potential of this particular assembly. So you can take the combination of different electrodes, say barium with potassium. Take the very basic concentration, say 0.01 and 0.01. You take the basic concentration, check out the potential on the screen. It's 0.152 volts. Note it down. Alter the concentration of barium. Barium is in BaCl2 as electrolyte. So here you have 0.43 as the concentration and 0.261 is the potential. So you can check up the effect of altering. अपने आप experiments create करो. How can you create the experiment for yourself? To check the effect of varying the concentration of barium in BaCl2 for the cell. You can always talk about the cell and, report the values of the potential. Make a plot, draw a graph and report it. You can also even take the same electrode in both and then study it. Repeat it for different electrodes and then study it. You can even study the effect of temperature for a particular concentration which is set. You can check the effect of temperature for a particular concentration that is set for this particular assembly. कर सकते हो? ऐसे you can think of many more experiments. Okay. Let me talk about more. This is like, you can check the name of the website right here. It's chemsims.com. Here what happens is they will introduce you to simulations. Some of you may have actually got your mind rusted for some of the experiments that you had done in your even 12th grade or first year or second year. Give yourself a revision through these virtual tools when you are sitting for free and you feel chalo dekh hi lete hain. So chemsims.com introduces you to all of those experiments. See, kinetics is all dependent on temperature. Solubility factor, again, you have variables. What all variables can you think of? Concentration, temperature, etc. Okay, and then you have the different gas laws. All of these are required for your knowledge in chemistry, even in future. The acid base. So it will introduce you to those simulations through through various videos. Okay. Then apart from that, last time I introduced you to Labster. So I'll quickly take you to the Labster. Try it out. It's a wonderful, lab safety software where you will just understand.
Welcome to the lab safety simulation. I am Dr. One, your AI lab assistant. Today, you will learn everything you need to know to survive your first day in the lab.
So,
are you ready for the challenge?
Here, when you are
This simulation uses voiceovers. If you don't have audio, click the speaker symbol on the top right of your lab pad to switch the play mode.
All right.
If you disable the sound effects, the lab pad will slide up whenever there are instructions to read.
I'm just not
You can
able to
select
find
what
out the
type of
stop
audio
button
you
right now,
prefer.
but then let me just tell
Deselecting any
you.
of the options will mute that option. Click continue to learn how to navigate through your mission.
Okay, so what I want to tell you through this particular software is that when you continue, and enter the
Using
lab.
the lab pad is an important way to get the most out of this simulation. Is this the first time you've played a Labster simulation?
All right, so what you do is you just go and enter the lab.
First, find a lab coat. Click on it to put it on.
See, it is asking me that before I enter the lab, it didn't allow me to open the door. Why didn't it allow me to open the door? Because I'm not wearing a lab coat right now. So I'll just scroll around, check out the lab. See, it's creating that kind of a real lab environment. So the simulation is working accordingly. And then I'll just go and pick up the lab coat from here. It's here. I'll pick it up, pick it, and I'm now wearing the lab
coat.
coat.
Safety goggles and you are ready to go.
So it is asking me to wear the lab coat as well as the safety goggles. So you understand the basics of how it is to be used, and what all.
Click on the door to enter the laboratory.
So even if your teacher, forgets to inform you that these things and suddenly tell you on the day of the practicals that where is your lab coat, you will not be allowed entry in the lab without your lab coat or the safety goggles, especially for some experiments. So you will be allowed to enter the lab only after you follow the basic safety precautions. So now the lab is open.
This lab
for me.
was used by first-year chemistry students, and they obviously didn't leave it in the safest condition. Find 5 safety hazards and click on them.
So, I'm just telling you that, no offense to the first years, but the AI here is telling me that the first year had used this lab already and they didn't leave it clean. Because those lab etiquettes are already are the most important things that you must learn even before you implement and try it out on some software, or try it out in real. Because if you don't have the etiquettes of how to work in the lab, then you are not fit to be a science student. So say supposedly here the lab bench is all cluttered, so all you need to do it.
This bench looks very messy. It is important to keep the lab bench tidy. Any clutter should be cleared away before starting a new experiment, and there should be no hazardous chemicals left on a workbench.
So we'll just clear this clutter.
1 hazard down, 4 more to go.
So
identify the hazards by clicking on them.
So 1 hazard down, and I am not going to take you completely through it, but then there are some things that you have to learn even before entering the lab. I know, my dear students, that you did not get an access to the offline mode, but then before you even start working with the virtual simulators, the most important thing is that you should know the etiquettes that you need to follow before entering the lab. So this is an excellent tool that I was talking of in the last lecture, that, another safety hazard is that I'm not pinpointing, otherwise, it will keep speaking again and again. There is a table right in front of the door. The door should always be left open, so that there is an easy pathway outside the doors, especially in a chemistry lab, which is a little dangerous. Then again, you see that the hazardous chemicals are just left out and open. Then this is a fume cupboard. This fume cupboard is there, in almost all the labs. So these fume cupboards should actually be kept closed, because there may be some reaction which is already set on, so that the harmful fumes can go out through the fume board only. And another hazard that you see here is right here in the sink. Okay, it's full of glassware that needs to be cleaned. So it is for you to find out, explore. You just have to take a look at
Click
the lab.
on the lab pad for more information.
So, all you need to do is, and it will keep showing your progress right here. So I love this particular simulation because, it is teaching you the basic etiquettes of how to behave before entering the lab. And even after entering the lab, you should always take care of these tiny things which are very important. Because there is a saying that nazar hatti, durghatana ghati. So we do not want anything of that sort in especially the chemistry lab, where you have to be absolutely attentive at all times. Now that etiquette, of course, cannot be learned in online mode. It comes with practice. But if you are prepared mentally for the same, you will behave far better than your other friends and classmates. Then another virtual simulator that I'd like you to introduce to you, apart from the IIT, I think Amrita Labs are also, working a lot in this dimension. So you can note down the name of the website, which is absolutely clearly visible from here. It is www.olabs.edu.in, wherein you have all the basics of physical chemistry as well as organic and inorganic chemistry being revised. So just in case if you have to brush through all of them, it's not a bad idea to go through these basic experiments, which are very much required to form strong pillars for your undergrad studies. So go ahead, explore them, learn them up. And if I click on it, the very first one, we've already talked about the determination of the EMF of the cell. We had a voltmeter there. It opens it up. The beauty of Amrita Labs is that it gives you the theory. So you won't have to check up your books, ki kahan dhoonde, which page, what all should we read. It will give you the basic theory which is required for a particular experiment. Then of course the cookbook here with the procedure, so that you know how to go about doing it. And then apart from the procedure, here the simulator is the one that is going to help you with working on the virtual mode. So again, you have already seen that in one of the virtual tool that I had shown. So you can select your electrode again. The beauty in this case is that, you can set the temperature, concentration, just as you could in the earlier virtual tool that I had shown. But here it also gives you the chemical reaction that you fumble to write at times. In your electrochemistry course, let me tell you, you are asked to construct the cell. You are asked to write the cell reactions. So if you have forgotten all of those, it's a good place where you can revise it all. It tells you, it gives you the Nernst equation also. So it's a good brush through of your basics, which are required even in a better fashion in your undergrad. So not a bad idea to go through them, and you keep getting the values also simultaneously. Say supposedly you have just now selected the temperature and the electrode. All you need to do is just, there was a button from where you get the value as well. So I alter the concentration and I get the volt. I get the value of the EMF. I alter the concentration, I again get the value. So it all depends on how you are simulating the online tools in order to get the results of your choice according to the aim of the experiment. There are many more experiments that can be explored using this. So why not just give yourself some time when you are sitting for free rather than stepping out, because we want all of you all to stay safe and learn as much as possible. All right. I think I've introduced you to enough of things, but then one last question before I leave so that I can check it in the chat box. Let me stop sharing now. Okay, one last question to all of you. You can just put it in the chat box. How many of you will now explore these simulators and go through the basic concepts before checking up the next lab experiment with your teachers now? Write me if you are going to actually be sincere with the understanding of the concepts and use of these simulators, if at all you get an option. So I like that. Many of you did answer, but I can still see the hesitation in many who are not still answering. I like that M with an extra E, me. I'm definitely going to use them in a unique way of learning. So I like it, Aparna. Thanks for writing extra statement to make me happy. Yeah, M with an extra E, of course. Good. I'm glad that, even if I could influence 10% of you, it's like worth talking to you all, even in the online mode and the virtual tools. Let's explore the offline when the pandemic times get over. Thank you very much for your patient listening. I give the mic to the organizers now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was what an exciting and insightful lecture it was. I mean, I'm amazed. I'm missing your first lecture. That day I was not there because of some reasons, but today I get to know about so many things. And yeah, so so many things. And I mean, I have seen how the approach of the student changed from offline mode to both mode, at least for now. That they are now agreeing that, yeah, this is online mode is very important. Here we are going to learn so many things that after Corona period is over, we can utilize that for our benefit. And most importantly, ma'am, the simulations. In fact, before the start of this program and in between as well, some students or those who were not knowing anything, they were saying that, what are we going to learn by online mode? Experiment to online mode में कैसे करेंगे, कैसे सीखेंगे? But these simulators, what we have shown, अगर concentration बढ़ा दूँ, I'll get the corresponding volt, corresponding value. Agar values change, so this is what is simulation, and we are actually learning through researches that you told about USA and other places, that they are saying that actually the brain capacity increases more when you are simulating the things. So what I am perceiving, that all my students who are taking this course right now, they must have, undergone transformation in their ideas, that actually we are doing very good thing, and everything is quite well on track. And on top of that, you have taken this concept so, brilliantly, that I can see. So all the students who were in at 4 p.m., they are still till it is 5:15. So I guess that, this is the beauty of a very wonderful teacher. And you have introduced these concepts to the students, and they will definitely imbibe what you have told. And most importantly, all those extra E with M, me. So I would expect all my students, all the students who are here, that they'll definitely follow all these online tools, Amrita, or any other online tools that you have been told about. So I must say special thanks to you, ma'am, for taking pains to create this wonderful PPT and this presentation for our students. I'm sure they have learned many things. It is not necessary that we are reaching up to all 100% students. What you correctly told, even 10% is more than enough for us. But I'm sure with your guidance, most of our students will at least try to go on internet, search something, that what are we going to do with this thing, that thing, what we are being told. So this is one thing. And I know it has been very hectic schedule for you also. You devoted your second lecture today, first being on 2 days back. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for giving your valuable time. And yeah, of course, motivating our students to take up this new task under this pandemic condition, and without realizing them that this is basically not impediment upon them. This is actually a benefit for them to utilize this time. And I'm sure students are also learning these things. So with this, I thank you so much. I have my special thanks to our principal, ma'am, for giving us the opportunity for organizing this event. And then even teacher in charge, Dr. Kailash Jyoti Das, and course coordinator, Dr. Professor Rina Saxena, who could not join the event due to some personal loss, and Professor, all the teachers in the department, Professor Anita Kamra Verma, who is the main coordinator of the DBT event. So it has been amazing journey, and I'm sure the students must have enjoyed through the last 5 days. Maybe if 1 or 2 students can give their feedback, it would be wonderful for us on. And madam, we would request you to stay back. Maybe the feedback can come for you also. So I would request at least 1 or 2 students to give their feedback. They can, but the condition is,
sir. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's a question by Manan, I think. Ma'am, why only physical chemistry experiments are there and not of organic and inorganic in most virtual labs, like in Chem Collective 1? Last time we did discuss that it is still being expanded, and there are many more tools which are getting created for all fields of chemistry, not only chemistry, but all fields of engineering, all fields of biotechnology also. So is the case with our subject as well. Many more experiments have already been created for inorganic and organic. The only thing is that you need to get to the correct simulator for that. And our institutes here in India, institutions are making in a lot of effort to include as many experiments as possible in these virtual modes. So just wait and watch, practice whatever is available as of now, so that you are even actually pro to work with these virtual simulators. All right. And I could just see one question after the entire lecture. I'm actually thankful to sir for such a nice thank you after the entire lecture got over. But then I would have been happier. The true success of the lecture comes in when you have questions from the students. So presently I can see 70 participants. If you are using your brain cells well, just think about at least one short question and put it in the screen. I may not be able to answer all. but you can at least put in your minds like Manan. And why should he take a lead in asking a question, and why not others can think of something? All right, all the best. Come up with it, and let's have the session getting proceeded as sir is talking about. Let's have a feedback for the
Yeah, please, anybody. But the condition is that you will have to open your camera also, because at least we want to see who the student is. Please, who is the first student?
Now, sometimes it so happens that the child is reluctant because they feel that they're not presentable, because I also had to make sure that I look all right.
That
So
is it.
if you put that
चलो एक बार try तो कर लो. At
Right.
least somebody who is presentable and who is ready to ask the question. अच्छा relax कर देते हैं. चलो आप ऐसे ही question पूछ लो.
What happened? Mridul is not there. Where is he?
Gitanjali madam.
Mridul used to ask every time a question in the class also. I think he has gone for the quiz. Hi Rakhi, how are you?
Absolutely fine. Thank you, ma'am.
You can ask to the mic also. Pucho?
So who is going to ask the question?
From Oppo A71. He asked,
Yog
can we
Lakshmi
ask?
seems Yog Lakshmi has turned on her camera. Yog Lakshmi, would you like to ask? योग लक्ष्मी आप सो के देख रहे हो, ये पता लग रहा है.
Right. So anytime we are available for answering your questions. For those of you who are still hesitant to ask questions in the online mode, can leave your questions with your teachers.
Yeah, sure, man, sure. Because I mean, they are. It seems now.
Now we get another intelligent question there in the chat box. Ma'am, are there any future job opportunities in this virtual lab field? Now, when we talk about these future job opportunities, let me just talk about them. In the virtual lab field, there is the world of technology, which is just going to boom the entire world like anything. So at the present stage, it is not just the virtual lab field that comes into the picture. Whether you know how to create a program, whether you know your chemistry well to make sure that the formulae are embedded in the right fashion for these simulators, or whether it is working with these virtual simulators to get the best results, or to research upon how well they're working. Be like an inspector for these virtual simulators and comment, use different virtual simulators, and you be a critic for those virtual simulators, whether they're working in the correct fashion or not. But for all of that, your chemistry should absolutely be in prim and proper fashion. And sometimes, you get to learn and overcome your barriers of chemistry also when you are working with these virtual simulators. If at all you had something wrong in your mind, and while just working with these virtual simulators, it gets set right. So there is a big field that is actually getting opened up. Most of the pharma companies also are looking forward to those people who can handle these simulators really well, who can create these simulators also well, because they want the simulations not only for this is just one industry that I'm talking about. Apart from this, let me tell you, biotechnology, the field of biomedical sciences, the field of medical sciences, altogether. I mean, if you talking about the cure of different diseases and formulation of different drugs, say it be the molecular modeling of different chemical molecules, for all of them, let me tell you, you make a beginning with these virtual simulators today, and the world is there for you tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And Gitanjali, ma'am. Yeah. So your final comments also on this 5-day program.
Finally, I would like to thank Rakhi, you and the whole organizing team, and want to congratulate everyone for successfully holding the workshop. Thanks, Shaki, and all the students who patiently listen everything, try to ask the questions, interact. And I think in online mode, if 10% of them are actually listening and following, that is more than sufficient. And this is what we expect in the offline mode also. At least when we come in the class at 8:40, we expect out of 70 or 80 students, if 5 or 6 are also attentively listening, we say our work is done. So here also, I think from our side, we have done our work, but it would be much better if the students will try to understand, they try to utilize this time. They feel like this, okay, everybody wants offline should start, but if things are not happening in our way, let's we try to imbibe as maximum as we can get from this. In spite of this, after 3 years, they came to know that they haven't learned even a single thing. Then I think that will be bad on our part as well as on their part also. So try to learn. We all are here to help you in any ways. So thank you so much. Thanks, Raki, for sparing so much of valuable time for us. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so there
Thanks
is one
for
announcement that since we at Seminar Committee and KEMSOC, we are organizing events for our students. So very recently on 28th, we have our next colloquium 2. That is one professor from USA that he is going to come. And this time the topic is the inorganic one, that is related to the catalysis. So let me share you that poster with you all, so that you all are getting to know about that thing. And I hope you all can see that. This is colloquium 2, and I would request all the students to register in that particular event that is to be held on 28th January. And there is that event is going to be totally free for everyone. Just register it, and we are going to give certificates to all the participants who are attending this session. And I'll also share that registration link with you all, if I can. Let me see. So, and we'll share it on our social media handles as well. So with this, I would thank everyone for joining in, and joining in in large numbers. Now we have that final quiz round. So Dr. Vandana, are you ready? Dr. Vandana? Maybe,
Sir, the quiz has been posted already.
Acha, okay. Then you have time till 6 p.m. Just submit it well in time. So all the best. If you have any question, you may please ask. Otherwise,
Excuse me,
we
sir.
are finished for the day.
Sir, the time allotted is 5:30. Could you please ask Kamlesh sir to make it till 6?
Yeah. Just repeat.
Sir, the time allotted for the quiz is 5:30. So you could please ask Kamlesh sir to
We'll
make
keep it to 6 p.m.
Extended till 6.
Right?
Yes,
6 p.m.
Sir, on Google Classroom, it is showing 5:40.
5:40. We'll keep it to 6 p.m. Don't worry. We'll keep
Okay,
it to
sir.
6 p.m.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes,
Chalo,
thank
all the
you.
best. And we'll meet in some other program. But it was nice being with you all. And you are a wonderful audience. I mean, you stayed back. You learned so many things. So thank you so much. Thank you. Now we can
Thank you,
end the
sir.
meeting. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Gitanjali, ma'am.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.